What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Correlation Nation, and this week we're going to be going over the UFC card over in London, England. Check this out. We pulled out some gear right here. We got some cage steel fight gear, and it is Team England, I believe, right here. You got so check that out. But anyways, go ahead, do yourself a favor, subscribe to the channel. I promise you, you won't regret it. And then do me a favor, go ahead and drop a like. I really want to get this channel going. And before we hop into the upcoming card, we can recap real quickly on last week's card, what happened. So I personally went 12 of 14 in all my picks, and the two that I missed was the very first fight of the night. I did fall on the Sam Hughes side. I didn't feel super confident in that pick. The only reason I went with Sam Hughes over Pereira or whatever is because I thought that she might just do a little bit more. But I did anticipate Rodriguez being the more efficient striker as well. So, I thought that maybe split decision, it was a clear victory for Rodriguez. But yeah, if you just looked at the over, which was, like I said, if you're thinking what's the most likely outcome of this fight, that was the over, or the fight goes to the cards, in my opinion. That's what I thought. And so if you went with that, then you still fell in the green. Now, the other fight that we missed was the Chris Curtis, Miktabek Orlai. Yeah, I mean, come on. And it's funny because it's another fight that I thought would go to the cards, and I think that if you just done that, you fell on the right side. But, yeah, he ragdolled Curtis. I was a little bit surprised how well he was able, or how easily he was able to just take him take him down over and over and again. But nonetheless, is what it is. So, yep, last week, just a quick recap, we went 12-14. Those were the two that we missed. But again, if you fell on the side of just going the over, or going to the cards, which I thought was the most likely scenario in both of those fights, you still fell in the green. Now, let's go ahead and forget about all that. Clean slate, we're moving on to next week, right? Like I said, we're going across the pond. We're over in London, England. And we have ourselves a pretty fun card all in all. Let's check it out really quickly. Looks like a total of 14 bouts as of now. Now, we all know this can change, but as of right now, we got the 14 fights. Some young talent. Let's hop into it. The first fight of the night, we have Melissa Mullins going against Luana Carolina. Close fight. I'm not sure how accurate these lines are, but you got the plus 100 on the Mullins side right now. Age, 2-year gap. Size is virtually identical. Mullins does look like the more thicker fighter, you would think. But yeah, you just have to see him. I always try to hold my horses. I try to save it because I feel like you have this opinion almost like built in your mind that this is what they're going to look like. But I really just like to see them on the scale next to one another, let them square up, and then kind of make that judgment there as far as, do I think one's going to have a physicality advantage or what have you. But anyways, these two ladies, like I said, virtually the same. You got Chanel Dyer going against Ravina Oliveira. Yeah, I don't think Oliveira is really UFC level, but, we'll get into that. Shamrock going against Al-Swati. Louis Sutherland against Brando Perisic. Antonio Tricoli going against, I'm not sure, I think his name is Matas Condratavicius. Hey, we tried. We'll move on. Mario Pinto going against Felipe Franco. Nathaniel Wood going against Lucine Quieta. That may be totally wrong. Mason Jones against Axel Sola. Curtis Campbell and Danny Silva. Roman Dolidze going against Christian Duncan. Iwo Baraniewski against Austen Lane. Michael Page and Sam Patterson. Luke Riley going against Aswell. And then you got the main event. Evloev going against Murphy. Yeah, most of these are pretty fun fights. Let's get right into these, guys. Let's go. What is this popping up in our way? Get this out of here. Please, no more. All right. Let's pull up our first fighter. We do have Melissa Mullins. And, the notes I have on her, just to be quite honest, they're a little outdated. We'll be working on them this week. for sure. But, you know, I have that she's a patient striker, pretty basic kickboxing style. So I'm guessing she just kind of, you know, a little 1-2, you know, maybe a little backside kick, low, maybe side. I'm not sure. I'd have to really go back and watch the tape. Patient. So I take that, you know, when she's at range, she's kind of measured. But I have to go back. You know, the way I take notes now is completely different than this. So I'll definitely look to be improving these notes as the week goes. But hand speed seems pretty good. But all in all, I don't walk away from it feeling like Melissa Mullins she's not really a great striker. She can definitely she has lapses there. None of it's natural. Um it is what it is. But she wants to work her way to the clinch where she can use her body lock throws. She's physically pretty strong. Wrestling, grappling is, you know, there, but controlling ground and pound style. So she's going to look to, you know, advance positionally, use a little bit of ground and pound, secure victory. And then on the other side, we have Luana Carolina, right? Carolina. Let's go right here. All right. Luana Carolina. Pull her up. No, I didn't mean to do that. All right. Fairly light-footed striker. Shows a bit of bounce with the footwork, with some range management. Doesn't fight very well off her back foot. She has an uneducated guard. She will extend her guard. She does have some long-range weapons. A decent 1-2, teep, and a sidekick. But looks pretty sloppy. She does have effective Muay Thai clinch. She has step and elbow when engaging. Good knees. Takedown defense and grappling is an issue. And so stylistically, these two match up where it's going to be pretty interesting fight, you know, because you definitely have Melissa, which is more of the grappler, obviously more of a wrestler, and then Carolina, which is going to be a little bit more of a striker, and then some clinch work, but it's not very well off her back. Let's, you know, that's why I think in a fight like this, it is important to see how they're going to size up physically because, you know, if you see Mullins just looks like she's just going to bulldog Carolina, then, you know, you have to take that into account, right? Let's pull them up on paper, though, and see what kind of competition they've had. Do they have any similar type of opponents in the past? And, you know, how did they fare against them, if so? Nora. All right, let's go over to Carolina real quick. See what competition she's faced. I don't know. I feel like the Ivana Petrovic, I feel like that's almost similar-ish. So is the Wood, though. I feel like a win against Lupita Godinez. Surprising. Godinez is a good fighter. She just, yeah, doesn't have the right aggression always, I would say. I think it's a really, really tough fight. But this is what I'll say. I do think Melissa Mullins is going to win this fight, and I'll tell you why. It's for a couple reasons. I think it's a close fight, but I'm going to go with Melissa Mullins, and the reason I'm going to is because I do believe that if she can close the distance at any point, and I think the telling thing is that Luana is a Muay Thai clinch striker, at least somewhat, right? Like the fact that she has that step in elbow, knees in the clinch. She's got some Muay Thai, which tells me she feels comfortable in the clinch. And then on the opposing side, Mullins has body lock throws. Now, I may be totally off base with this, but I do think that, this fight's competitive enough on the feet. Luana's probably going to have the striking edge. But it's competitive enough on the feet that I don't think she's going to, like, knock out Melissa Mullins or whatever. Guess it could happen. But I don't think it's going to happen. And I do believe that at some point they're going to find themselves against the cage or in a clinching scenario. And if that happens, then if Melissa Mullins can body lock, throw her, trip her, anything, get her down to the mat, if she can do that 2 or 3 times in the whole fight, I think she wins, right? So I'll have to go back and watch a little bit more tape because I do want to refresh myself on the Mullins, especially since the notes are a little outdated. I just believe that she's going to be able to get this fight to the ground at least 2, if not 3 times, and I think that with that she'll be able to secure the victory. I could be wrong, but she's also going to be the hometown favorite, right? Yeah. So there's 2 sides of this. I'm going to take the Mullins side. If she's a plus 100, I mean, what do you got to lose? Let's hold on. I'm going to pull her back up just real quick. Carolina, how many times has she been finished? Only twice. She's a much better fighter than, like, she doesn't really wow you, but she's does pretty well. Melissa's only been finished once. Yeah. I don't know. Well, let's move on. I mean, it's like I said, I need to refresh my memory on her, but I'm gonna go with Melissa Mullins. I think that she can get the fight. She can get the fight to the ground at least a couple times, and then she'll secure victory, whether it's ground and pound or decision. Right? I mean, she have any submissions? No. So yeah, ground and pound style, bud. Ground and pound you out. Let's rock. Let's go. On to the next fight. We do have Chanel Dyer going against Ravina Oliveira. This is, again, another pretty interesting. Well, it's not interesting, but Chanel Dyer coming in on a contender series, and she looked pretty good in my opinion. She did get beat. She showed some lapses in a little bit of her striking defense, but to be honest, she had some, like, a really aggressive opponent on the other side of her that was kind of willing to just wade into the fire. So that kind of makes a bit of difference as well. Chanel Dyer. Let's pull her up here, and then I'll pull her up on the... All right. Fairly light-footed striker. She shows decent good bounce. I don't know. Decent-ish or good-ish bounce. I'll have to go through that. She does show a pretty good bounce, though. She has pretty nice footwork, I know. With decent footwork, right? So she has good bounce with decent footwork. She tends to be pretty front-loaded. However, you will see her kind of like heavy on that front foot, kind of forward-ish. Technical striker with kick-heavy attack. Very snappy kicks. Doesn't have very good head movement, however. Takedown defense seems decent enough. She has a nice sprawl. She'll dig underhooks and use knees to fend off anybody trying to take her down. So, yeah, I think she looks pretty good. I think she's a pretty good prospect, especially for the division. Let's pull her up on paper really quick, because I also think she's fairly young. 24 years old. This is a great prospect for the UFC. I mean, she's technically pretty sound. She's good. She's good. I like her. Let's move on. Her opponent, Ravina. Let's see. There she is. All right. Ravina is a slightly light-footed pressure striker. She shows a bit of bounce with some footwork, but typically pretty flat-footed. Doesn't seem to be very technical. She has a decent one too, but everything's a bit wide. Likes to throw the lead leg, low kick. She's a wheeling brawler, kind of, I guess. Seems to throw hard, and she will grab clinch and throw pitter-patter knees. Yeah, I mean, I guess, if you're, on the regional scene, some of this stuff can work. But just to be honest with you, I don't think she's UFC level whatsoever. I mean, I guess anybody that's in a fight always has a puncher's chance. I'll give her that. Willing to go out there and brawl, I'll give her that. I'm sure she's improved to some degree. But Dyer is technically, honestly, way better than most women's MMA fighters. Her kickboxing, Muay Thai kickboxing style or whatever, yeah, it's pretty clean. It's pretty technical. So I favor her significantly in this fight. I don't know what these lines look like. Let's pull this up. Minus 350. Yeah, it's probably fair enough. To be honest, yeah, it's women's MMA, but I just think that Dyer is so much more technical than Oliveira. It's just simple. We're going to move on. We got Shimrock going against Al-Suwadi. Let's pull him up on paper real quick. Close odds plus 105 for the Shim side as of right now. Maybe. I don't know. 5'11 to 5'8, significant height advantage, and then you do have a 4-inch reach advantage as well for the Shim side. Let's pull him up, Shim. Is Shim him, bud? I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know Shim very well. But I did watch some tape on him. I got this slightly light-footed fighter. He shows a bit of bounce with some footwork. Does tend to be pretty grounded. Seems pretty measured. Fights behind a diverse kicking attack. He's got a heavy backside kicks that he'll throw front, side, and high. And honestly, he throws similar kicks with his lead leg. Throws a decent right jab and a decent left cross. Tends to feint the jab looking to throw the cross. And he's willing to engage in the grappling. I have that he has well-timed entries, but questionable control and process. And you can see that when you go to his record. I could be totally wrong about this. This is just what I have. But when you go to him on paper and look at his record, you see that the majority of his wins are actually submissions. He's 9-0 to the submission, 2-1 to the knockout, and then 1-1 to decision. I don't know. I think this is a pretty tough fight, all in all, honestly. Because, the record kind of tells me that he doesn't get a ton of KOs. Let's see when his last KOs were. 2022. In 2020. I mean, I'm sure he's capable. He's a pretty big dude, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't love that he only has 2 knockouts on the record. And most of his wins are coming by submission. And the only reason I say that is because if this comes down to a grappling match, I do think that Al-Suwadi could at least hang with him somewhat, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that, but let's pull up Suwadi real quick. And then we're going to pull up... 8 TKOs, 2 submissions, never been submitted, 5-0 to the... So, that, like you see, he's losing by knockout, right? That kind of worries me a bit. Yeah, I don't know. Let's pull up his notes real quick, though. All right. Light-footed striker. Shows good balance using lots of movement and footwork. He seems quite measured. Carries a decent guard. He has a quick jab and then right overhand. Likes to throw sweeping, chopping kind of style, low kicks. Some takedown ability. Well-timed entry. Scrambles and transitions well on the mat. And has solid ground and pound. I don't know. It's just, it's really, really weird because I think the striking should favor Shamrock, but I just don't know if he's going to want to keep it standing, And then I think if he takes it to the ground, I guess he could find success, but I just don't think that that's the clearest path to victory. So stylistically, it's just an odd matchup. It really is, in my opinion, because I think that Al-Swati is a tougher opponent on the ground, where Shim's probably going to want to eventually take it. It's a weird fight, man. It really is. And I just don't know these guys very, very well. I mean, I do somewhat remember Sawadi's last fight. I don't really remember Shim's. Actually, who did he fight? I feel like I remember him getting beat, but I don't really remember him. I just remember his opponent getting the dub on him. Who was it? Okay, yeah, he got grabbed. That's why. It's because that guy had come off a long layoff. Now, that's the other thing, and I heard somebody say this, so shout out to, I think it was MMA 138, but he said, Al-Swati doesn't even show up for his fights, and that has kind of been true more recently. So, been on a long layoff. There's a chance, I guess, this fight don't happen. I don't really know what kind of issues he's been dealing with, but the proof is right here. The proof, you could see right in front of you. You have, 1, 2, 3, 4 canceled fights. So, but whatever, we'll see. You can't say that it's not going to happen until it's been actually canceled. So we're just going to anticipate that it's going to go through, and to pick a winner in this is tough. Rock's got a pretty good size advantage. I think striking advantage. I'll go with Rock on this ever so slightly. I don't love this fight whatsoever. Kind of hate it. I like to see them weigh in, see what they really, really look like next to one another. I just think you have a lot of variables in this fight with Shim and how he fights. You know what I mean? If he's going to keep it striking, keep it at range, I think he can win that fight. I'm going to favor him ever so slightly to win this fight, but I'll be definitely looking into this one a little bit more. But anywho, let's move on. We got Louis Sutherland going against Brando Pericic. Okay. Yeah, this is a setup fight. I'm not sure that Louis. I'll say this fight probably doesn't go, and the main reason is Brando. Brando's extremely aggressive. Let's pull up Louis real quick and see what we have on him. I don't think Louis is like a terrible fighter. I just don't think he's a very good fighter. All right, Louis Sutherland. Let's check this guy out real quick. Pretty flat-footed striker. He shows a bit of bounce with some footwork. Tends to be pretty plotty. He seems fairly measured. He carries a decent guard. I mean, he doesn't move his head much. Will use his back leg to throw solid low kicks or flick out a front kick. Decent-ish left jab. Powerful overhand cross or cross. And he will swarm opponents when they're hurt. And then his ground game's an unknown. He's going to get on top and try to ground and pound you, but I'm saying more that, if he's getting taken down, and deals with adversity that way. So, I think, honestly, that let's pull up Brando. Brando Percic. A fairly light-footed pressure striker. He shows decent bounce with some footwork. He has solid long-range weapons, 1-2 backside kick to all levels, and front kicks. Will look to get to the clinch and use violent elbows and knees. He's violent and aggressive. You know, the guy takedown defense seems to be an issue, but does show urgency working back up. But doesn't seem to have positional awareness. So in this, in this fight, I'm not too worried about that, but that's definitely something we'll be keeping our eye on, especially in future matchups. But in this fight, I think it looks competitive until it doesn't, and then it's just over. That's my honest opinion of it. I do believe that Louis has the power to knock out Brando, so the fight ends by TKO maybe is probably like the most likely outcome of this fight. Just fight ends in knockout. Let's pull these guys up on paper real quick and see if there's any merit to this. Because Sutherland, I guess, could, just try to stay safe the whole time. I think that his only real path to victory is knockout. Okay. I guess Brando does have one submission. Let's see. 2024. I don't know. I still think TKO is most likely, but fight doesn't go. Is like definitely probably in the cards, right? You know what I mean? And we're just gonna move on, yeah. But we're gonna take Brando Percic probably by TKO, but most likely outcome is fight just ends by TKO or fight doesn't go. And then moving on, Antonio Tricoli going against Mantas Contra Tavorit. Oh, sorry. Let me look at this one more time. I'm gonna try to get this. All right, it is Mantas Contra Tavicius, and we're gonna rock. We're just gonna run because I ain't doing that again. Tricoli, huge age gap, big size advantage, 3-inch on the height, and then a nearly 5-inch reach advantage for Tricoli. But let's be honest, Tricoli hasn't shown very well in the UFC. Let's pull him up. All right, Antonio. This guy is a flat-footed striker that pressures his opponents. He has low output, carries his hands low, will clinch and look to get the fight to the ground, where you can use his BJJ. I have that he's a brown belt. I heard somebody else he's a black belt. Last I knew he was a brown belt, and I don't know how he's a black belt. But whatever. He's not that good. I guess he has that in his pocket, but don't hold your breath, buddy. And then on the other side of it, we do have, and this guy's coming off Contender Series, Contra Tavicius. Let's pull him up. Contra Tavicius, this guy is a light-footed striker. He shows solid bounce using measured pressure. He does kind of lack range management. So that can be an issue for him because, depending on who his opponent is, he could be definitely countered. Like he'll be there to be hit because his range management, like if he's willing to kind of press forward, try to maintain range, but whenever his opponent is on offense, he doesn't maintain that range. But anyways, he has a decent left jab. He carries a decent guard, but he does lack any real head movement. He has a powerful overhand right, and I'm like wondering if he's an emotional fighter, if like he just, he's maybe prone to making boneheaded decisions, potentially. I'm not so worried about that again in this fight necessarily, but it's something that I noticed it on tape that it looked like he was literally just getting mad and reacting to what his opponent was doing to him. Looks fairly strong in the clinch. He has pretty good balance and leverage. where he uses balance and leverage. Solid clinch player. Willing brawler. Fights with good pace and seems to have a good chin. That's going to be, I think, the deciding factor in this fight is I think they're going to end up in some kind of ugly-looking brawl-type fight, probably sooner than later, and he's just going to walk out on top because he's got the better chin than Tricoli. Tricoli has not been able to take a punch in the UFC. When you pull him up on paper, I believe this guy's been knocked out in all 3 or 4 of his fights. Guillotine, he's choked out. Left hook by Shara. He's fighting. Is he fighting down? Because Umar, see that must have been up at 205 or something, right? Kind of curious about that. Was he fighting at 205? Light heavyweight. $200. That's a catch weight at 200. 205. So he's fighting a light heavyweight where he had more. I mean, obviously this is regional scene or whatever, but he definitely had more success at light heavyweight than he has. So like maybe he's just cutting too much weight and he just has no durability now. I'm not really sure, guys. I think the thing is just comes down to Kondratavicius knocks this guy out or finishes him. How quick's this first round, third round? Well, that's an issue. Hold on. We're about to die. Hold on. Let's see if I can get plugged in before we die. Alright. Sorry about that, sorry. Now, let's just go ahead and move on. I think Kondratavicius finishes guy. He wins his fight. He's definitely got his own liabilities and what have you, but minus, I don't know. Hold on, I'm gonna really I'm gonna really look into this because maybe it's a trap. Maybe Kondratavicius is an absolute trap. Let's see this. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna still stick with Kondratavicius. Even his last one to me was impressive. Because I actually bet against him in the Contender Series. I thought the other guy was gonna win that fight, and I thought he looked pretty impressive. I just don't know that Tricoli's going to have success at the highest level, man. I really don't think he's going to. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with the favorite on this. Big surprise, right? Let's just go ahead and move on. We got Mario Pinto going against Felipe Franco. Now, this to me is kind of an interesting fight because what you're going to hear is everybody just kind of bag on Felipe Franco. And maybe he is. Maybe that's justified. But to be honest with you, I'm not so sure it is. Let's pull these guys up. The issue I'm going to point out right away is that this guy, whoever's managing this guy, is not doing this guy any favors because he's a 205er at the 6'1", and he's fighting all these heavyweights. I mean, there's a 3-inch reach advantage for Pinto in this. Maybe not super significant, but the size should be definitely a factor. And then that was kind of his case even on Contender Series. I know when he fought there. Now, did he have a good showing? No, he didn't. I get it. Has he beat anyone? Has he really proven anything? No, he hasn't. I get it. So I'm not trying to say anything. I think Pinto's definitely the rightful favorite in this fight, even, especially up a weight class. I'm just trying to point out that whoever's managing Franco, like, there's potential this guy could be fighting at like middleweight. You know what I mean? Or right? Yeah, probably. I think so. He could probably get down to like 185. Right? Anyhow. That frame he could probably get down, and then that would be a lot more interesting for him because it does seem, at least in his Contender Series fight, he was kind of getting ragdolled. But let's pull up Mario real quick. Mario. All right. Mario Pinto. Light-footed striker, shows good bounce and solid footwork. Patient striker, he fights behind a solid left jab and backside low kick. Seems to manage his tank pretty well. He has good takedown defense, brawls well. Now, these are heavyweights, right? We all know the skill level. The heavyweight's not quite the same it is at the lower weight classes. It's just is what it is. Let's pull up his opponent. Let's see. Can't see nothing. All right, Felipe Franco. Now, mind you, these notes were taken for Contender Series, and I didn't really update them. But Felipe Franco, he's a light-footed striker. He shows good bounce and seemingly solid footwork. Boxing looks fairly technical. He has a high guard, stiff left jab, clean 1-2. Decent looking double leg. He has good blend of control and ground and pound to advance for submission. Looks the part, but has met virtually no resistance. And that's what we're going to be seeing in him going into the UFC, especially the way he has lost on Contender Series. Now he's fighting. I don't know what this is. Like, that's why I'm questioning. Like, who's your manager? They're not doing you any favors, bro. Like, I don't know why you're fighting at heavyweight when you could potentially be fighting down a weight class. Like, that makes way more sense in my opinion. Maybe you can't get down there, but at least stay at freaking light heavyweight, bro. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Now, so because of this, I do think this is a pretty interesting fight. Like I said, you're going to be hearing most people just talk, probably bag on Franco. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like I said, I do think Pinto's pretty good, especially when I'm analyzing him, looking at him relative to a lot of the other heavyweight contenders or whatever. I do think he's pretty solid. I like his skill set for the heavyweight division. Now, Franco, I honestly don't even mind his skill set for the heavyweight division. His problem is his size. Like, he's just not built for the heavyweight division at 6'1", 76-inch reach. That's just not where he's going to get it. Now, I could see him being, I guess, somewhat competitive on the feet. Now, and I'm not sure, I may be wrong about this, but I don't really anticipate Mario Pinto's going to be wanting to, like, really wrestle with him or whatever, so I don't see that being really a huge issue in this fight. I just think that he's just going to get outworked, out-volumed. I think that Pinto's going to be the more effective striker, especially at that size. But because it's probably, like, I do think it's probably going to be striking mostly. I don't know. Like I said, I could see Felipe being at least competitive. And then if that's the case, then and it goes to the cards, that could be a problem. So, you got this huge minus 550 favorite that might fight a just competitive striking matchup with Felipe Franco. And I feel like when you look at Felipe, let's pull him up on paper real quick. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that he's going to get bulldogged by like a heavyweight, like Freddie Vidal. Like, yeah, I get it. He was a huge favorite in that, but like Freddie Vidal, and that I'm pretty sure they did fight at 205. But let's pull it up. Let's see what it says. Yeah, 205. I just don't know, man. I'd like to see this guy fighting down. I think not up. Fought at heavyweight. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting fight. Like I said, people are gonna bag on this dude, but I mostly just want to stay the heck away from it. I'll take Pinto because I do think that, like I said, I just think that his skill set matches up well against Franco's. So I I do anticipate that he's gonna win this fight. I just think that if it's just a striking battle the whole fight, there's always a possibility that Franco could just kind of hang in there and just be competitive. And then it could be greasy, man. You could be like, man, why did I freaking put this guy in there? Like, you just think he's going to knock him out? Or I just don't know. I don't even think that's Mario's not like this huge one punch power dude. He's just not. It's not how he fights. And I'm not saying he can't. Like, he's a heavyweight. So, yeah, he definitely could just knock somebody out. That's not what I'm saying. 7 knockouts, 3 decision wins, 1 submission. I don't know. We're going to take Pinto. I think, yeah, I mean, he's being set up here. The other thing is that Franco, this short notice replacement for Franco, I believe, as well. So, yeah, we're definitely going to side with the favorite in Pinto. But I'll probably be staying away from this fight mostly. Heavyweight fight, I just don't really want anything to do with it. There's no real value on it unless you're on the other side anyway. So, for that reason, we'll take Pinto, his rightful favorite, but yeah, not at minus 500 or whatever. Let's move on. We got Nathaniel Wood going against Losina Keita. I'm not sure. Honestly, I've never even heard this guy's name before. I know that he was scheduled to fight Pitbull, and then he came in like way overweight or whatever, like didn't even try. And so that fight didn't happen. But yeah, anyways, let's pull these guys up and see what we have on them. Nathaniel Wood. Wood, 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 Wood. All right, Nathaniel Wood. Light-footed striker, shows good bounce with decent footwork. A bit of an in and out style. Striking is very sudden. He has a nice long jab, clean cross, nice backside low kick. Does seem willing to trade in the clinch. and you don't really love that, but he's an opportunistic grappler. And then let's pull up his opponent. All right. Light-footed striker, shows good bounce, constant movement with solid footwork, uses measured pressure. He's an explosive athlete, decent left jab, feints a lot, fast hands, closes gap quick, heavy overhand and cross, has a nice step-in knee. He likes to throw when he backs opponents up to the cage. And the guy has very natural head movement, very reactionary, it's very nice. You know, it looks good. Ground games in question seems to sprawl okay. That's really all I have. You know, and I only watch so much tape on the guy. And I think what we have here is two great prospects, really, all in all. You know, I think it's one of the funner fights on here. I'm going to favor Nathaniel Wood's technicality just ever so slightly. I wanted to look at him on paper a little more in depth, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that they're kind of the same fighter, but I do think Wood is just ever so slightly more technical striker. And I think that his opponent, Lucina or Lucini, I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy's name. I think that generally he's just the faster fighter, right? He's a great athlete, and I think that a lot of guys get to the UFC, or really not even just UFC. When you talk about professional sports, a lot of great athletes make it to the top because they're better athletes than other people. And I think that with him, that's kind of what you have. He's just a better athlete than most of his opponents. But when he meets an equal athlete or somebody that is not going to quit on themselves, see, there's things you haven't gotten to see yet. So let's get into this. Let's pull up Nathaniel Wood here on paper real quick. Or actually, let's start with his opponent. We'll pull him up on paper real quick. Only one loss. You know, he's 10-1 to the KO, so he knows how to win by knocking people out. Very obvious. 6-0 to the decision. So it's good to see that he can fight decisions or win decisions, win minutes, not just moments. Fought into the 4th round in 2023. 4-round Muay Thai in 2022. 5 rounds in 2022, so that's nice as well. And now let's pull up Nathaniel real quick. 7-2 to the KO, 6-2 to the sub, 9-2 to the decision. 10-3 in the UFC. Well, I think it's an interesting fight. Like I said, I'm gonna favor Nathaniel Wood, just the technicality of the striking skill set versus his opponents ever so slightly. And also the fact that we've seen him fight through a lot of adversity in the past. And so I'm gonna favor that, and I think that he can implement some grappling and stuff too, where potentially you could find maybe a little bit of success there also. So I'm going to favor him. I'm not really sure on like how I really want to see him weigh in. The other thing is, though, is that he is going to be giving up a decent size advantage. 2 inches in height. That's not that bad. I thought it was like 3 or 4. And then the reach, we don't actually have that yet. So we'll have to wait and see on the reach. And he may be coming from, is he coming from 154? I don't know. I think he's fought in multiple weight classes, so. And then Nathaniel Wood's not like, I think he came up a weight, so I'm pretty sure that he's kind of smaller for the division, but probably doesn't cut nearly as much weight. And he's fast, man. I know that. Like I said, sudden, very sudden. I think it's a great scrap. It's a tough fight to call. Looks like Nathaniel Wood is a slight underdog, plus 155. I just favor, like I said, I think he's the cleaner, more technical striker, and I think he can fight through the adversity. And so for those reasons, I'm going to favor him. I think he wins his fight, but he could get knocked out. He has shown, just the slightest crack in his chin before. You can knock the guy down, and so it's tough. It's tough to call. You don't know what's going to happen here. Dog or pass, brother, right? Dog or pass. Let's see what other people say. I'll wait until the weigh-in too to see what they look like. I mean, if old boy's just like way bigger, I'm be like, oh man, I don't know. I might be second guessing myself if that's the case. But it's a fun scrap nonetheless. Let's move on. The next fight of the night, we have Mason Jones going against Axel Sola. This is a fun fight. Pull them up on paper real quick. We have Sola or Jones is or minus 135 favorite. Sola is a plus 105 underdog. A significant height advantage to the Sola side at 6'2". But, well, I guess that's 4 inches, right? 4-inch height advantage. But he doesn't get any advantage there in the reach. So let's pull up Mason Jones on paper. And I feel like Mason's a little outdated, but we'll pull him up anyways. Mason Jones. Flat-footed pressure striker. He sets a high pace with good output. Has solid wrestling. Hold on. My apologies. Let me restart that. Flat-footed pressure striker. Sets a high pace with good output. Has solid wrestling. Lacks great control, but can chain. And he hasn't shown great finishing ability at the highest level. Now, like I said, this is a little outdated. I still kind of stand by that. He has shown the ability to get some finishes. Let's pull this guy up on paper, though, because I don't want things to be taken out of context or whatever. And Mason Jones is a great fighter. He's very well-rounded. But he's a guy, he's like a jack of all trades where, in certain areas, he can be beat. Now, when you look at the past, I mean, and to his credit, he's fought some killers, like Ludovic Klein, killer. Mike Davis is also a killer. He lost to guys like that before being cut the last time. So I don't know that was... and beat David Onama. David Onama is an absolute dog for any deficiencies that guy might have. He's a dog. So he did finish Baraniewski, but Baraniewski's a guy that I feel like when he hurts people, he spins himself. You even seen it just recently, like last week or whatever. Great fight. But he spent himself. Now, I believe Baraniewski was winning that fight, right? And he spent himself. So in this fight, let's pull up Aswell. All right. Light-footed pressure striker. Decent movement with some range management. He has a bladed stance, solid 1-2. He likes to throw the backside low and side kick. He can strike off his back foot. Willing to work in the clinch. Good elbows, solid knees. Body lock throw. Seems to be pretty sound grappler. Scrambles well. And he's a position over submission with decent ground and pound. I mean, I don't know. I listen to other people talk about this guy. I took this guy against McKee, whatever. I mean, when I watch this guy's good. This guy is real good. I'm not saying he can't be beat in any way. This guy's the real deal. And even when you look at his record, I mean, this guy was like champion, defending, really young. Let's pull him up. Mm-hmm. 6-0 to the TKO, 1 1-0 to the sub. Yeah, I mean, obviously undefeated. You know, the guy can fight long, like, you know, majority to, you know, 5-round fight there. I don't know. I just feel like he's come up the right way. He's proven himself champion, or, you know, 5-0 in Brave, 5-0 in Aries, and, you know, now is 1-0 in the UFC. You know, depending on how the matches guy up, you know, I anticipate him being 5-0 in the UFC. Honestly, just because, you know, that depends on how they match him up. But I think the guy is kind of good everywhere, you know, and he's able to fight, keep the fight where he wants it. Well, it doesn't even matter where the fight goes. He's a good fighter, man. He really is. I mean, I don't know what else I'm supposed to say about the guy. And he's got a great frame, you know, at 6'2". Yeah, I don't know, man. I think Mason Jones is good. I do. I think this is a really, really tough scrap for both guys. But I think that in the end, Axel Sola is going to be able to do more. He's going to be able to land more strikes. He's going to be able to implement his grappling more so than Mason Jones. And I don't think that, like, Sola's proven to be durable. He's proven to be able to fight long. I don't think he's going to gas out. I don't think he's going to spin himself. I think he wins his fight. I don't know how he wins his fight. I guess, you know, I don't know that. I don't think Mason Jones has ever been finished, right? I'd say decision. 3-round fight. Never been, yeah. I think that he probably wins this by decision. By just being the more effective striker and the more effective grappler. I just think he's really better than Mason Jones everywhere, in my opinion. I could be proven wrong, but nothing tells me otherwise. Everything tells me he's the better fighter, so I'm gonna go with Axel Sola on this. I think he wins this fight by decision. He's a plus 105 underdog. Let's run it. You know, next up we have Curtis Campbell going against Danny Silva. Curtis is shown to be a minus 175 favorite. 23 years old, 5'9", 72-inch reach. Got a pretty good reach. Got a pretty good build, really. Let's pull him up. Curtis, you boy. Pink Panther, right? Curtis Campbell. This guy is fluid switch stance striker, so he kind of just floats. He like just fluidly moves from one stance to the other. Shows solid bounce with some footwork. Seems fairly measured. Fights behind a pretty diverse kicking attack, side, front, and low. Boxing is quite undeveloped. He carries a wide, uneducated guard. Pretty basic 1-2 with some head movement. Nice step in knee. Seems to get takedowns off catching kicks. He'll just like treetop his opponents. So he just, yeah, he's like one of them guys. I feel like maybe he's not got like super clean wrestling, but he's able to, you know, kind of get the fight to the ground at times. Ground game is in question, but he does seem to float and ground and pound fairly well, and then he'll work for submissions. You know, like I feel like he transitions and everything fairly well. You just don't really know what he's going to do defensively. I feel like he's been a pretty good nail mostly, but hasn't had the greatest level of competition yet, so you don't know what he's going to do in positions of adversity, right? You know, 5-0 to the KO, 1-0 to the sub, and then 2 decision wins. Pull this guy up real quick. You know, maybe that was a pretty good win for him right there. I don't know. Let's pull up Silva real quick. See what we have on Silva. Danny Silva. So There it is right there. I'm like, where is he? All right. Danny Silva. Fairly light-footed pressure striker. Switch stance. Solid movement. Boxing is a bit loose, but puts together combinations pretty well. Carries hands low. He has solid low kick. Well-timed knees. And scrambles quite well. Just a tough fight. Tough fight. Because Danny Silva is super tough, right? Let's go back over here. Let's look what we have here again. Let's pull up Danny Silva on paper. Went to the cards with Kevin Vallejos, I guess it is. I don't know how you get Vallejos out of that, but yeah, I mean, fight. Let's see, fight. Yeah, fight has to go. Fight has to go to the card, in my opinion. The over in this fight is probably the most likely outcome, I think. Danny's obviously extremely difficult to finish. He's fought some pretty good level of competition even early in the UFC. Angel Pacheco, for all, he's a very well-rounded fighter. Josh Kulabau or whatever was also he's a pretty good fighter himself. Lucas Almeida, not a bad fighter. Kevin Vallejos, nasty fighter. Not fight is Curtis Campbell, which is extremely untested, in my opinion. Super untested. I mean, I think all the value has to be on the dog on this side, right? You have this huge favorite probably in Curtis Campbell. Minus 175. I guess that's not too crazy. But if you can get plus 145 on the Danny side, I think the value's still on that side. He's got the size advantage. I think that he probably has the power advantage. Definitely has the power advantage. Just more technical. Now, you're going to see that Danny's probably going to want to be more of like in the boxing range, whereas Curtis at range is going to be more of a kicking range. That could be an issue, but I think that if, Danny being a pressure striker, him pushing a pace and walking into Curtis Campbell, it's like crowding the kicker, right? So I think you're going to anticipate that he's going to crowd the kicker, and then he all of a sudden just becomes the more effective striker. Because if he pushes it and he makes sure that it's in boxing range and not kicking range, then I favor Danny Silva's skill set. Now, Curtis could definitely look to grapple from there. I got to go with Silva, man. I have to go with Silva. I'm going to take Silva. Fight goes over, most likely, but I'll go with Silva. I think Silva probably wins the fight, but it should be a good scrap. Should be a fun scrap. And Curtis Campbell's not a bad fighter. He's the type of guy that definitely, I think, could win in a lot of different areas. It's just he's untested. I think he needs a little more seasoning. Okay, we're gonna move on. Moving on. We got Roman Dolidze going against Christian Leroy Duncan. It's another fun fight. Pull him up on paper. You got 7-year age gap here, so Duncan's definitely the younger, fresher fighter. Both 6'2", good frames. The 3-inch reach advantage for Christian Leroy Duncan. Let's pull up Roman real quick. Roman Dolidze. Let's see. Come on, Roman. Where you at, big dog? Big dog? All right, Roman Dolidze. Flat-footed striker. He's pretty patient. Boxing is decent. Carries a high guard. Nice right cross off step-in stand switch. So he'll just kind of step in. He uses it kind of like a jab, but he's like stepping it. It's a cross / jab. I don't know. all depends on where your feet and what have you are whenever you throw it, but I feel like he's definitely stepping in, so he's coming from the backside and stepping through and throwing that cross. More of a counter striker, has solid right kicks. He'll throw them front, low, and side from range. Decent left axe kick. Mediocre takedowns, but he is dangerous on the ground. He's a quite dangerous defensive grappler. And then on the other side, you have Christian. Let's pull him up. All right, Christian Leroy Duncan is a light-footed striker. He's a plus athlete, explosive striker. He has an in-and-out style, solid range management, long straight punches. He does carry his hands low, but he's got dynamic kicks. Initial takedown defense is pretty solid. He can be taken down, but you know the athleticism, it helps. You know, and he will work to get up. I'm gonna say he can't be controlled or whatever, but stylistically, I think Christian Leroy, like this fight favors Christian Leroy Duncan significantly, because I think that while on the ground, yeah, Dolidze could win that fight on the ground. I don't think that he has the ability to close the gap or the ability to get the takedowns really. And so for that reason, I just favor Christian Leroy Duncan and his striking skill set. But you know, both these guys possess power, so Dolidze could definitely catch Duncan, but I think more times than not, this is Christian Leroy Duncan wins this fight by either decision or knockout. Dolidze, I believe, is pretty tough and pretty durable. Never been knocked out. You know, went 5 rounds with Evloev. You know, I think that's the only one that you can really even consider. You know, Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland, that fight, you know, he took him down so quick and hurt him so quick that, you know, it's hard to say that he stood there with anyone with, like, big-time power. Vettori's not known. I mean, I think Vettori's got power, but he's not known to be this huge power puncher. So I don't think that he's ever really stood with a guy like Christian Leroy Duncan. So I wouldn't put a knockout out of the realm of possibilities. I definitely think it's possible. But, you know, I also think that Dolidze is proven to be pretty durable. So it's hard to, you know, like, I don't really want to go place the bet on a knockout. I'd rather just yeah. Let's look at the line real quick. Minus 340 favorite. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably Duncan. Let's pull him up on paper. I want to see his recent form, what he's done. 10 knockouts. Marco Trulio knocked him out. Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the safe thing would to be money line the CLB side, but I mean, I guess maybe not super duper safe, but that, in my opinion, that's probably like the safest way to look at it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to either decision or knockout, and then just try to figure out how you want to play it off of those two things. But I do think that Christian Leroy Duncan wins this fight. Let's go ahead and move on to the next bout. We have Iwo Baraniewski going against Austen Lane. Austen Lane hasn't shown the ability to take a punch at the UFC level. You know, he's 38 years old. Was at the heavyweight division, coming down to the light heavyweight division, I believe, for this fight. And he's going against Iwo. Let's pull up Iwo. Iwu is a light-footed striker. He shows solid bounce, footwork looks solid, uses measured pressure with some range management. Striking looks okay. He does carry a high guard, throws pretty heavy backside low and side kicks. He likes to enter the pocket with an overhand. Seems to have some real takedown ability. He advances well on the mat with nasty ground and pound from back mount. So he's able to get the back mount and then finish the fights from there. And then on the other side, Austen Lane. Athlete, light-footed striker, good straight shots, really nice kicks, doesn't get his hands back quick enough, and is there to be hit. He doesn't take punches well. And that's really all I have on the guy. So I think that, him being a good athlete, big athlete, powerful guy, what have you, yeah, I mean, he can win a knockout, sure. Why not? But maybe not like super duper likely, right? And I just, at the UFC level, I can't bet on somebody that can't take a punch. I think that, honestly, this is a fight, since he has a size advantage, if he could dance around and pick and poke, and he could probably win that fight. Honestly, I think he could. He could point fight here, but I would never bet on that. And let's pull up you real quick on paper. 5-2, never been in the cards. Yeah, so just fight doesn't go is like the most, like fight doesn't see the cards. This guy's never been in the cards. He's probably going to look to finish his fight. And then I think that Austen Lane's he's got kind of two paths to victory here. Like I said, he could definitely, I think, point fight with the frame that he has against Iwu, but I guess he's 1-0 to the decision, but I think that was a lay and pray decision win against Rebellis to Spain. Yeah. I mean, his winning's never really been predicated on point fighting, right? So I don't anticipate that he's going to all of a sudden do that. This fight just doesn't see the cards. It's simple. This guy can't take a punch. Fight doesn't go to the cards. And you understand that by doing that, you are protecting yourself from Austen Lane knocking out Iwu, because his only real path to victory is him knocking out Iwu, right? That's it. He's not going to lay and pray this guy. This guy's not a striker that doesn't know anything on the mat. Like, this is a judoka guy. Like, they'd probably submit him, right? And then that's why the fight ends by TKOs is a little bit uncertain, because there is a world where he just like arm bars this fool or something. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I would be looking at it as like fight just doesn't see the cards. And moving on. I don't know what kind of value you're going to have on this anyways. Minus 410 on that dude. Michael Venom Page going against Sam Patterson. This is kind of a fun matchup to some degree. Both pretty tall and long for the division. Frame is almost identical. Let's pull up Michael real quick. Page. All right. Michael Venom Page, this guy is a light-footed striker. Measured pressure and range management. Throws long straight punches, leaping in and out. He's fast. He has great head movement. Initial takedown defense is pretty good, but he can be taken down. He works to get up, but can be outworked. Like, he can be held there, and he can be beat. And then on the other side, you have Sam Patterson to pull him up. Sam Patterson. All right. Fairly light-footed striker. He shows a bit of bounce, solid footwork with some range management. He has a nice backside teep kick. He will also throw it low and to the side. He pumps the left jab as a range feeler, and he throws the right cross. Can be pressured to the cage. Takedown defense seems pretty spotty, pretty aggressive defensive grappler, especially front chokes. I don't mind Patterson. I think Patterson's a pretty solid fighter. I think he's probably a lot better than most people think he is. However, I don't think this matchup favors his style whatsoever. I do anticipate Michael Venom Page basically doing what we've seen him doing recently, and just kind of in and out. I don't think he's going to want to hurt Sam Patterson because Sam Patterson is apparently somebody who's pretty close to him. So I anticipate Michael Venom Page wins this fight by decision. He just puts on a masterclass of a striking performance. Kind of boring, whatever. But the problem with Sam Patterson in this, and the thing that's going to hurt him, is some people might think, oh, he's going to close the distance and take him down. The problem is with that is while it's possible, he's not known to have these great takedowns, right? And the other issue is he's going to have a really hard time tracking Michael Venom Page to get the takedown to begin with. And so for these reasons, I can't place a bet on a guy that it's like, oh, what am I betting on? Am I betting on like Michael Venom Page slipping and falling again? Is that possible? Yeah, but is that what I'm betting on? No. I anticipate the most likely outcome is MVP does his thing and just in and out, boop, 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 and he just point fights the heck out of Patterson, and that's that. Decision win for the MVP side. Let's move on. The next fight we have Luke Raleigh going against Michael Aswell. Let's pull these guys up on paper. 26 and 25, 145ers. Heights pretty similar, reaches exact. Let's pull up Riley. Riley's a guy that came off of contendership. No. I think he was going to fight on contender, and then I think he actually debuted in the UFC without contender series. So, we'll pull that up in a minute. But anyways, Luke Riley, fairly light-footed striker. He shows solid balance and footwork. Seems pretty measured, but doesn't have great range management. He is a plus athlete with good speed and power. Heavy backside kicks, especially the teep. That's one. I think he throws other ones, but that teep it's nasty, pretty nice. Solid 1-2. Fluid counter striker. I get this, I feel like when he counters, it's just fluid, natural to him. Solid takedown defense. Sprawls well and has pretty good balance. Will work to get up if taken down. He has a nice step in knee and solid elbows in the clinch. And then let's pull up Aswell. All right, Michael Aswell. Light-footed pressure striker, shows decent bounce with a bit of footwork. A solid boxing, basic combination, high guard. Tends to leave his hands out to dry, has pretty average speed. Will punch his way into the clinch to gain control. Has good takedown defense. Weaponizes pace and pressure. Oh, it's a tough fight. This is a scrap, boys. All right, let's really, really dig into this real quick because I think this is a tough one to call. Riley's a minus 230 favorite, and I don't know if that's really deserved. I get the hype coming in and doing what he did to Bogdangrad or whatever, but, Aswell's a really, really tough customer himself. Let's see what Riley has done on paper. 9-0 to the KO, never had a submission, and 3-0 to decision. So he doesn't really have to get a knockout. Let's pull up Aswell. All right, Aswell lost a decision to Belagioki and Bogdangrad, and Yaya Del Valle, or whatever. Kind of got out grappled, kind of really. Had a pretty good showing in that fight all in all. I think the over in this fight is pretty likely. Just because I feel like Luke Riley is a guy that, can win moments and minutes potentially, right? I feel like Aswell's path to victory here is just like pace and pressure, outlive, outlast, kind of just do a little bit more. And it's a tough road, especially being that he's going to be fighting Riley at home, co-main event. It's a really tough task. I don't know that he gets the nod even if he does win on the cards, right? And so that's really really tough. But Aswell's really tough fighter. He's not going to allow Luke Riley to operate at range and have this clean striking battle. I don't believe. I think it's going to be tough. But and I honestly I could see a world where Aswell even wins a decision. Just to be honest with you, and that's why I think the over safer, because I don't know that Riley's going to knock out Aswell. Aswell is a tough dude. He's fought some tough dudes and hasn't been knocked out yet. I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's certainly possible. It's always possible. I just don't know. I'm not going to bank on it when it's not like a super likely outcome. I don't think that Riley knocks this guy out. Like if they fight maybe 10 times, maybe once or twice he knocks him out. That's what I think. So I'm not betting on that. That's I think more than likely this fight goes over, and even with the chance of Aswell winning. So I like the over. And I like the fight goes to decision. And then I would even be looking to probably sprinkle on Aswell by decision. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure you can get some pretty good odds if he's already a plus 190 dog. And that's what I'm saying. Move on. Let's go to Movsar Evloev going against Lerone Murphy. Wow, I butchered boy's name. I don't even care. This guy never fights, hardly ever. Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy. Let's check them out. Let's pull them up. All right. Evloev. Light-footed striker. He shows good bounce with solid-ish footwork. He can be pressed straight back. He seems pretty measured. He likes to throw a heavy backside low or side kick from range. Pretty basic boxing combinations. Wide, uneducated guard. Physically strong wrestler and grappler. He will chain, float, control, moderate ground and pound. Scrambles and advances well. And that's kind of who he is as a fighter. And that's why you get a lot of decision. He's a decisionator, right? That's what he's going to do. And then on the other side, you have Murphy to pull him up. And to some degree, this guy's been a decisionator too, but kind of a different style of decisionator. Let's see. We got a light-footed, good movement, range management, clean fundamental boxing, educated guard, feints, jab, nice backside teep kick, snappy low inside kick, solid takedown defense. He works to get up. Good knees in the clinch, but the volume can be a problem. I'm gonna go with the hometown kid here. I might be going against the grain. Let's pull these guys up on paper. Actually, yeah, plus 22. Honestly, I don't think that the scale's that far apart. I think that for any grappling advantage you could talk about Movsar having, I think you could talk about striking advantage Murphy has, right? And if Murphy's able to maintain range and prevent the takedown, then he wins that fight. Now, I understand obviously it could go either way, but that's why it's more of a pick 'em fight in my opinion. And I'm just not really sure. Let's see. You got a slight size advantage for the striker as well. Typically, I think you kind of favor the grappler, the wrestler in these scenarios. But the thing is I don't feel like he's an extremely aggressive. Like he's not on the front foot a lot. Like he kind of waits for the fight to come to him. And then Murphy honestly kind of does the same thing, only he does it striking. And he's obviously his skill set is striking. So I think that in those moments where there's not as much going on, like Murphy's winning that fight, right? And so I'm just kind of banking on him like being able to like squeak out 3 rounds because the other thing is I think you could say probably Murphy finish no action even, and be safe like that because Movsar's not finishing no one, right? Like that guy don't finish anybody. I even think there's the argument to be made that he kind of lost. I thought maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch the Sterling fight, but I don't know. I think you could make an argument he lost that fight. I don't know. I need to go back and watch a little bit more tape on old boy. I'm going to favor the hometown kid though, and I'm gonna go Lerone Murphy. But I'm going to do more in-depth stuff. I got the rest of the week. I'll go through some of the stuff, some of the things I'm not too sure about. I'll look into it a little bit more. And then, I'll do a quick, rapid recap of my final thoughts and predictions later this week. So stay tuned, guys. Check you next time. Peace out.